Thank you. Yeah, it's my honor and a real blessing for me to be able to speak of my experiences. And a lot of what I've heard you just speak about was also a few points that I wanted to include as well. I just want to start off with saying what I believe the Lord is doing right now at this time. And it has to do also with the church, and that it's no longer a time, the church and religion, that kingdom is falling apart and we're going into the kingdom of heaven. So just to reverberate what you were saying, I really feel like that's why there's so much about the metaphysical realm, the spirit, ascension, meditation, the wheels within wheels, is because we're coming out of the age where we would just sit in church and listen to one person talk and they would be the star. But now we're coming where we're all stars, we're all experiencing everything at the same time. And I also see that the glory, because of that, it says that in the end the glory shall cover the whole waters. The glory shall cover the earth like all of the waters of the world. So because more people are going up, more people are going within to meditate within, that glory is coming through them. They are becoming the channel for the glory of God, so the kingdom realm to come up and be seen in this earth realm. Something also personally that the Lord has been telling me within the last 2 weeks is that the accuser of the brethren is being silenced. So if there is anybody in your life, knowingly or unknowingly, that has some offense against you, or you've caused an offense and you don't know that you've actually done that, you do not hold a grudge to them. You've forgiven them if you ought to forgive. And they are still holding on. So the blessing is still coming into your life, but it's like a rock in your shoe. They are, a disturbance. And God is saying that He's either humbling them, making them fall because they don't want to stop or they don't want to relent, and He's going to bring you up. So He's causing the righteous to come up, He's exalting the righteous, and He's causing the accuser of the brethren to be humbled, fall, or brought down. So that's just a personal word, I believe, at this time that the Father is doing. Those are just my introduction, but what I really want to speak about is just my own experience and how I began to experience the glory of God in my life in such a way that I've never experienced it before. I grew up Christian, read the Bible, went to school, learned, studied, and spoke the word over and over, remembered, memorized, all these things. So I have the church background. But there's a point where there comes a point in a Christian's life where you have to seek God yourself. And this is what I started to do. Because I discovered that no matter how much inspirational messages I received, no matter how much words I received and learned the Bible inside out and knew all the verses, I didn't know God personally. I didn't hear from Him personally, maybe once in a while. And I knew He was real. I knew that I loved Him with all my heart, but I didn't know how to find Him personally. And what I just started to do is I would lock myself in a room, quiet, and I would just sit. And I would sit with the Lord. I would sit with the Father. And at first I just sat in desperation, like I am going to find God. It's now or never. It's this or nothing. Because I know God exists, and somehow, I don't know how, because no one has ever taught me. I didn't learn about ascension. I didn't know about the mystical side of Christianity. And I just sat with God because I was just rock bottom. There was nothing else for me to do. And I just began to meditate. But I didn't even know that that's what it was called at the time. And I would utter some words. You know, I would say his name over and over and over. I want to tell you these things because we're entering into the age of the kingdom. So we have to learn how to operate and get ourselves into that kingdom where we know, where we hear, where we have a personal experience, where what I see in ascension is the same thing my friend sees in ascension, because we are all there together as a group, but in the spirit we are seeing the same thing. And that's how it's so exciting when you actually see that what someone else is seeing, you're actually experiencing as well. So I would say the Father's name, and I would just sense him as much as I could. I would try to sense him with my inner being. Teresa of Avila calls it going within. So that's what meditation is. You meditate on the Lord. It says meditate on the Lord day and night. Well, how is that possible? Because when you spend, say, an hour or 2 hours, at the beginning I would spend many hours. After I give my family breakfast, I would go downstairs, I lock myself in the room, and I would just spend time as much as I could with the Lord, just sitting and expecting that I am going to start hearing him, I'm going to start experiencing him. And then I would do the same thing after lunch. And then after lunch, I feel that I'm actually getting spiritually hungry again. That's how the spirit is so yearning for the things of the kingdom. Many people at this point, they will stop being a Christian. They'll be like, well, this is not working. Yeah, because it's never meant to be a church scenario. It's meant to be you individually coming to have a relationship with the Father. And sometimes we just have to push our flesh into it because we desire him so much. Because we know he's real and we have to find him, even if we don't have the directions of how to find him. But that's why I'm here telling you the directions of how I came about to feel him, to experience him. And then I would get spiritually hungry. So I would do it after supper time. I'd spend as many hours in the day as I could. And eventually I would start feeling his presence. Even now I can start feeling that presence. And it would come upon me. Waves of his presence would come upon me. And when the Spirit of God comes upon you, the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, which is the Spirit of Jesus, the same Spirit, and that same Spirit is in you, and it would come upon you again, it would flood you with different feelings of total bliss, of love, like deepest love, of deepest acceptance. The acceptance, there's no fault in the eyes of the Father. That's why Jesus came, to cover up all those faults. So now that we can have face-to-face relationship with the Father. It's no longer the 10 commandments that are between us and the face of God. It's Jesus has opened the veil. And now we have that relationship with him. And we can look at him, we can see him. And the Father will put out his hands and says, I love you. I embrace you. You are perfect in my sight. And then when he does that, that love completely takes away every question that you may have. Why did this happen? What is this? Why is it this way? The love covers every question, and there's no need for them anymore. Because you're completely encased in his love. You are completely swallowed up by his loving affection, by his peace, and by his joy. As I kept doing this, and I did this for 6 months straight, every day, nights, I tried to stay awake as long as I could. seeking God, I was beginning to get so much glory on me that I physically started feeling the tangible weight and energy of God in my body flowing. I would feel the fire on me in such great that I felt like my hand, especially my right hand, there was this time where I felt like I had stuck my hand in the most high voltage energy socket that I don't even know how much voltage that would be. It was on fire with the power and the energy of God. It was flowing through me so much. And I would get so excited. I would run upstairs, grab my kids. I'd take them to the bedroom. I would stand them up and the bed would be behind them. And I wouldn't even touch them because I would be so full of this enormous presence and glory of God. It's like the umbrella or the shadow or under the cloud of His glory, that I would just go like this. I wouldn't even touch them, and it didn't matter how close or how far away I was. And I would just go into that feeling of His presence within me, the one that I grew every day more and more and more. And I would just go like this, and they would be like, I would tell them, try not to move, like brace yourself, stand straight. Don't be so easy to move. And as I did that, they would still be bent, and they would be falling over on the bed. They would be falling over so much that I could see their face would light up. The countenance of God would be upon them. The light of Christ would shine through them. So I would do this very often. And every time I would do it, my kids would be kind of laughing. You know, they would be happy, joyful, a little bit drunk in the spirit. Sometimes if I did this in the bedroom and my children would come in, they would come in and they would be tumbling with their feet and they couldn't find their footing, and they would be like, "Mommy, what's wrong? What's happening?" I said, "Well, that's being drunk in the spirit." Yeah, it was so overwhelming. There would be times in the middle of the night where I would wake up and the whole house would be lit, as if, not even as if you turned on all the lights in the house. It would be lit like a blazing light from the hallway to the kitchen to the living room. Everything was lit up. And then I'd go to the bathroom, I'd come back, I'd go to sleep, and the next morning I would ask my husband, like, "Did you turn the lights off when you..." He said, "I turned them all off. You know, what are you talking about?" Because the glory was in the house. Because our houses are meant to be the buildings. Our houses are meant to be the building churches where people flock to them and say, "What's all this light coming from your house?" "Well, come in. Let me tell you about it. Let me show you." Because it's no longer just tell me. Everybody hears the message, but nobody sees it. Nobody feels it. And that's what I was looking for. It's not just a God that I hear the word. It's a God where I experience it. And I'm able to allow others to experience it. So I would also do this to my husband. My husband is the kind of man that will not easily give in to, falling or any kind of thing like that. And many times that I would pray for him, he would also be feeling the Spirit. He would also tell me after that he has such a great sense of peace. Or whatever I prayed for, he said that it doesn't seem like a problem anymore. Or whatever he was worried about. All the anxieties, it's the light that comes off of us. There is a light because He is the Father of lights. So that when we dwell in His presence, we dwell in the light. So that when I reach out my hands like this, even through, Zoom meetings and things when I pray for people, they experience him. The light carries many frequencies. It carries all the color frequencies, the 7 spirits: spirit of wisdom, knowledge, understanding, might, counsel, revelation, spirit of the Lord, spirit of the fear of the Lord. It carries the spirits that are before the throne of God and always with God. Those are God. Those are the spirits of God. So when I am filled with his presence and I pray for someone, the light comes out, and that light goes to everywhere that needs attention. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, wherever the problem is. The light is intelligent. The light carries knowledge, wisdom. The light is information. And it knows what needs to be healed. It knows where it needs to target. So if someone doesn't tell me what their problem is, or they don't really know what it is, the Father knows, and the light has the knowledge, and it's able to heal that particular thing. Before there was language, there was spirit and light. So before there was speaking, everything was done through the spirit and the light. So I believe that the kingdom of heaven now on earth, coming more and more and more,